Hi everyone and welcome back to SanaA's garden, and welcome if you're new here. I hope you all are doing great. So in this video I will be comparing the Asiatic lilies, Oriental lilies and tree lilies. So I have been growing the Asiatic lilies for about 4 years now, but this is my first year growing the Oriental lilies and tree lilies. I purchased the Oriental lily and tree lily bulbs from suttons.co.uk. I will link the exact product down in the description box if you would like to have a look. So I planted these Oriental lily and tree lily bulbs in March or April, sometime during the spring. And the Asiatic lilies were planted obviously last year in autumn. I have a video, I will link that in the description box and also on the iCard above. I also have the videos of planting the Oriental lilies and also the tree lilies. So we will be comparing all the simple things of Asiatic lilies, tree lilies and Oriental lilies. If you have some plants growing in your garden and you don't know what the differences are in between them, and maybe you bought a house and you already have lilies but you don't know what type of lilies they are. So this year I just wanted to grow all three of them and see the differences in them and understand their growing pattern, their requirements, and what they do in terms of multiplication and all that. So lots of interesting content coming up in fall possibly, because there will be so much to see. Obviously the Asiatic lilies will divide extensively and we have so much to see from the Asiatic lilies, but it will be very interesting to compare how the tree lilies and Oriental lilies perform in terms of multiplying. So straight off I can see that the Oriental lilies and tree lilies are very tall in compared to the Asiatic lilies, and we will briefly go into all the details of how they look. The first and very clear difference which we notice from a far glance is that the Asiatic lilies are shortest of the three varieties. So if you have all the three varieties in your garden and don't know which one is what, probably the shortest are the Asiatic lilies. And now we go into the other minor details one by one. So the next thing I'm looking at is the stems of the plants. So as you can see, the Asiatic lily stems are really stiff and green colored, and these are not bendable, mind you. I'm trying to bend the stem there, but it's not bendable. So that is one distinct feature of the Asiatic lilies. Now coming to the tree lilies, with a quick glance I can say that the stems are thinner when compared to the Asiatic lilies, and also the stems are brown in color. And now shifting to the Oriental lilies, we can see that these are light colored stems and they are slightly thicker than the tree lilies. So if you have, say, two of the taller varieties and you don't know which one is what, look at the stems. If they are green, they are probably Oriental lilies, and if they are brown, they are tree lilies. And now looking at the leaves of the plants, the foliage on Asiatic lilies is really densely arranged and also very glossy, thin and short, and it also has a very distinct variegation on it. And now when we look at the tree lilies, we can see that the leaves are not as densely packed as the Asiatic lilies. There is quite a bit of gap in between two leaves, and when we compare both the leaves, we can see that the tree lilies leaves are a bit wider. So I have this longer leaf from another tree lily plant which one of my neighbor gave it to me, and interestingly the leaves on that plant are very longer when compared to the tree lily which I bought this year. Now looking at the foliage arrangement of the Oriental lilies, we can clearly see that it is neither as densely packed as the Asiatic lilies nor sparse as the tree lilies. So it is just in between the tree lilies and Asiatic lilies foliar arrangement types. So if you have say two taller varieties and just look at the foliar arrangement, the one which is sparsely packed is tree lily and the one which is a little bit dense is probably Oriental lilies. And now looking at the leaf structures of the three of these plants, the shortest and the narrowest of all the leaf types is of the Asiatic lily plants. And now I have in my hands the tree lily foliage from two different plants. The longer and lighter one is from my neighbor, and the shorter leaf is from the bulbs which I purchased earlier this year. So it is really interesting that we have two different types of tree lily foliage in front of us. And coming to the Oriental lily, very clearly it is the glossiest of all, very shiny, dark colored, and the variegation on the leaf is really distinct when compared to all the other three leaf types here. So it is darker than the Asiatic lily foliage. So if you have a plant which has really dark and shiny foliage on them, that is probably an Oriental lily. Now coming to the comparison in between the buds and blooms of these three types of lilies, right now the Asiatic lilies are in bloom. I must say almost halfway done. As you can see, my container here, that is almost done blooming. Only a few of the flowers are in bloom right now and a few buds left to bloom. So I'm just showing the number of buds on each plant. So Asiatic lilies are really extensive, either in terms of a dividing or in terms of the blooming. They have a lot of flowers on them. So the one which you see in front, it has 18 blooms on it. Can you imagine that? 18 blooms on one plant. And most of them have somewhere around 5 to 12 to 10, something like that. So this is again a very noticeable feature, that the Asiatic lilies will have the most number of blooms on them. So, well, it's not rainbows and butterflies all the time. So some sort of a tragedy happened with my tree lilies. The buds were burnt. I don't know what happened. I don't have any buds to compare here. I'm so sorry. I saw a couple of buds forming there, but they sort of burned, and literally this bud had fallen off the day I was filming this video. Very strange. And I planted 5 of these tree lily bulbs, and one of them, the shoots was eaten by the squirrel, and I can still see that the squirrels are starting to bite through the stems. Very concerning. These are the tree lily plants from the bulbs which I had taken from my neighbor, and they performed really good, and they are growing nice and healthy, and they are literally in the tiniest container possible, but they're doing absolutely amazing. And one of them has 4 buds on it, and the shorter plant has one bud on it. And the buds look pretty healthy, and they look almost similar to the Asiatic lily buds, but these look a little bit pointy at the top. I don't know, maybe my eyes, but tell me if you see any difference in between the Asiatic lilies and the tree lily flower buds. So now coming to our Oriental lily bulbs, they are doing pretty good, and all of the plants have a couple of buds on each of them. What I noticed in the tree lily and Oriental lily plants is every flower bud has a sort of curvy and distinct shaped leaf at the bottom of the flower bud. I don't know if you can see it. So this is how the Oriental lily bulbs are looking close up. They are a little bit stunt and round, so we can clearly see how distinct the Oriental lily and tree lily buds are. These are short and round, and they are very long and pointy. I would have loved to compare the blooms of these 3 plants, but apparently they don't bloom at the same time, so bad luck there. So these were the very few basic things which I was able to differentiate in between these 3 types of lilies as a basic, simple, small time backyard gardener. And if you know anything more or anything really scientific or high level in regards to the differences in between these 3 types of lilies, I would be more than happy to know. So please let me know in the comments down below. that's it for this video. I hope that you all really enjoyed watching this one, and I also hope that this video gave you at least some inspiration to get something done in your garden today. And I'm hoping that if any of you had any doubts related to the Oriental lilies, tree lilies and Asiatic lilies, I hope that I was able to help a little bit at least. So yeah, thanks for watching. Keep gardening. Bye.